LA and the Portland situation. Maybe they just got to fill them out. But at the same time, the Bucks don't have anyone to do what LA did to Portland. The Bucks don't have a big to throw it into, or they make Giannis play as the big, and they don't really have reliable shooters on the outside. Bledsoe, streaky as hell. He's doing all right today, but anyone who remembers that Raptor series, the dude couldn't hit anything. Yeah. Anything. They were collapsing the paint. He was getting open shots 10 times a game and hit maybe 2 or 3 of them. So, I mean, they're another team that I don't really know what they were doing in the offseason. I think they should have went after a lot more shooters. I mean, they have Dante DiVincenzo, Kyle Korver, but Korver's a guy who shouldn't even be on the floor other than his shooting.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's kind of tough I'm sorry, not to cut you off.
No, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of tough to win in today's NBA when your best player is so interior reliant.
Yeah.
You know, like when you I'm, obviously with the Sixers, I watch it with Embiid as our best player, and as dominant as Embiid can be, there's only so much that he can do because he can't, first of all, handle the ball really in the half court, and he's getting the ball in the post. So he gets it, they double team him. Giannis is pretty much the same thing where, he gets the ball and he'll take it at the top of the arc or at being, behind the 3-point line, and then they'll build that wall, and he's a decent passer, not the best, but he can get the ball to the open guy. Sometimes it's erratic. But then, like you said, those shooters, they're not knocking down shots, and you really don't have that elite perimeter player. So like when I look at teams that had dominant big men as their best players, and I kind of look at Giannis as a dominant big man because that's his game. He's like inside, he's dominates in the paint. So you go look at like earlier teams, like the Tim Duncan dominant teams. You always had Ginobili and Tony Parker, who just went to another level in the playoffs when playoff time came around. You had Shaquille O'Neal, and look at all 3 of his stints. In Orlando, he had Penny Hardaway. In LA, he had Kobe Bryant. In Miami, he had Dwayne Wade. He had perimeter dominant players that can go and score on all 3 levels and be able to handle the rock during crunch time and go get a bucket whenever they want to. I don't see that for Milwaukee. Like, I don't see that. As Middleton, as good of a player that he is not that guy. Middleton as your second best player on the championship team, I do not see it. And right now, it's kind of been showing against an actual good team in the Miami Heat. Like, obviously, the Orlando Magic is just the Magic. That's bullshit. But this Miami Heat team, they're giving them fits.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying with these. It's just the pressure it has to be the pressure of managing a team in the NBA, because you look at. That's why the teams who succeed are the teams who are willing to take the risks. I mean, I think if like say the Bucks roster was in Miami and you have Spoelstra and Pat Riley, I don't think they've re-signed Middleton, even though they made it to the conference finals last year. I think, or with Toronto, most teams don't fire Dwayne Casey, or with Golden State, most teams don't fire Mark Jackson. You have to be willing to take those risks to go from great to champion. And I think the Bucks kind of fucked that up when they re-signed Middleton. I mean, when you give Middleton that money, and you kind of tie yourself cap-wise because they're going to be paying Giannis $40 million a year, if not more. Yeah, so now your hands are tied cap-wise, and you're never going to be able to go out and get that elite number 2 guy. So their only option is to kind of try and pull what the Raptors did last year. Of just, I mean, they obviously don't have to rent their best player because they have Giannis, but just having one real, because I mean, the Raptors did it last year because Golden State got hurt, but they had one real star. They had Lowry, who's like a Middleton, really good, but he's not. You don't want Lowry being your second best player on a championship team. But the rest of the team was just so deep that they got away with it, and obviously Golden State got hurt. But that's the only thing they really can do from here on out, because it's possible they get past Miami. It's possible they get past Boston, but we shouldn't even be having this discussion. They should be the favorites. Like, we shouldn't have this many questions about them. And if they do make it to the finals, they're not beating the Lakers. They're not beating the Clippers. They had – and then what? Where do you go from here? You're just going to be a consistently 55-win team that doesn't win in the finals. They're going to have to draft extremely well. They're going to have to get veteran shooters for cheap deals because they're handicapped right now when it comes to their cap.
Do you think?
And as far as the series,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's just not really to get into it, but I mean, it's kind of too early to really talk about it. But if they lose this game, which I mean, they've came back and people are starting to hit shots, but they're in trouble.
Yeah, man. Do you think? So let's say they lose this series. Let's say they lose against Miami, and Giannis has 1 year left on his deal. Well, right now 2, but the next year he has 1 year left on his deal, and he's not resigning. He's not giving you a guarantee that he's going to sign a supermax to stay in Milwaukee. Do you think the Milwaukee Bucks explore a trade for him to see if they can go ahead and get something as opposed to, next year, 2022 with 2021, 2022 offseason where he can just walk as a free agent and you get nothing for him? Do you think they explore that option of perhaps trading him to potentially bring in something?
I don't think so. I think just like LeBron, I mean, he's obviously not LeBron, but his regular season numbers are historic. I mean, like his regular season numbers, people talked about him a lot, but I don't think they talked about it enough. How good he was in the regular season this year.
Yeah.
So I think just like with LeBron in Cleveland back in not quite his second stint because he was always doing one-on-ones there, but in his first stint there, people knew that he might leave, but you just don't trade him, man. If there's any shot at keeping that guy who's going to be the best player, you just have to. Because at that point, it's your fault. I mean, it's not his fault. There was nothing that he did that made the only reason we're talking about why he's not a good shooter is because they haven't built the offense around him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they built the offense around him to deal with his faults, we wouldn't even be talking about that right now.
Yeah.
He's still scoring a decent amount. He's still hitting. He's efficient. He's still great on defense, even though he didn't pick up Butler. And I know it was made like a big thing was made out of that. He's still killing in the paint with rebounds. He's doing all he can do. And I understand the allure of kind of trying to get a farm for him, but I don't think so. I think if there's any shot that you get to keep the best player in the NBA, because he's going to be number 1, 2, or 3. I mean, worst case scenario, you just have to, man. You have to try. And if you don't, then you don't. You got 4 great years, 3 great years out of them. You're a competitor. Maybe you didn't win, but yeah, I would advise against it. I don't know much about the Milwaukee front office. We haven't really seen them be good for a long amount of time, so we don't really know how they operate. But no, man, I think you have to go all in on Giannis.
Even if like a team like, let's say the Miami Heat comes in like a Godfather offer in which they're offering like Bam and like 5 first-round picks, you still turning that down?
Ugh.
It's tough, right?
Yeah, I'm turning it down, man. I think first-round picks are highly overrated. You think – I mean, look at the Knicks. The Knicks get 3 first-rounders for Kristaps. And at the time, I was like, you know what? Like, we don't even know if we're going to keep him. But what is that honestly going to turn into? It's going to be like a 17th pick this year. And well, we gotta pray that team falls apart by 20. I think the last draft pick's like 2024 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like look at the Clippers in the it was good for OKC because Paul George I don't think was worth all of that. Right. But let's just say Giannis was on OKC and that was the trade. Yeah, you're getting 4 picks, but they have the best player in the NBA who's only 25. They're never going to be a lottery pick. You're never going to – so what, you're just getting 5 average players on good deals, which is great, but you're not building a championship with that. So I think the only way I'm thinking of trading Giannis is if it's more similar to the Carmelo trade where you're getting 4 players that can play for you right now and also a couple picks. Even then, though, man, like I said, it's the fortune favors the bold in the NBA, and you just got to take that risk. You got Giannis. You made that crazy. You got Giannis at 14, man. you're blessed already. You just got to do what you've got to do to put that around him. And maybe they can draft a couple shooters who can also play on the other end. I don't know, man, but that Middleton contract and the upcoming contract for Jan, they might be able to get a couple guys on 1 year prove-it deals. We'll see, but I don't really see them winning a championship this year.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you.
Budenholzer needs to do. Sorry, just one more thing.
Yeah,
I love Budenholzer as a coach. He's great defensively, but he needs to figure out how to build that offense more too. I mean, the offense right now is basically give the ball to Giannis and let him work and try to find outside shooters.
Yeah.
Maybe put Giannis in the top of the key, have a lot of guys cutting. I don't know, but you also need to make adjustments. You can't just rely on the fact that you have Giannis.
And we brought up your Knicks. I kind of want to transition over to them and pick your mind. So your New York basketball Knicks, you guys have been in basketball purgatory for quite a while now. You had a couple of good seasons with Amari Stoudemire, and then Carmelo comes over, and you had a 52 or 54 win season, and you get to the second round, and then it's kind of just been downhill from there. Linsanity comes in, as a little joke. But where do you see the future of this franchise, man? Like, what needs to be done for the New York Knicks to get back to basketball relevance?
So I really liked the Leon Rose hire. And he made a ton of hires that the behind-the-scenes hires that other GMs touted and things like that most people don't really know about or pay attention to that go. I'm a big believer in your GM, whoever's making your roster decisions is the most important thing in sports. I would take the best GM in sports over LeBron James because they just always, those teams are the teams that always win. And we just haven't had that. I mean, we've had these patches and these and James Dolan just controlling things and making dumb moves and it's a lot of it falls on the fans too. I think us as fans don't get enough blame for it because we always just want to win and we're always asking for the Melo trade. What year was that? I was 15. I'm why are you? He's a free agent. He's a free agent this year who wants to be in New York. Why not keep your pick, which is going to be a good pick because we're a middle of the road team. Keep Gallinari, who I fucking loved. But that's just how we've always been since I've been old enough to watch basketball. And I liked the Phil Jackson hire. And James Dolan seemed to be kind of pulling back and kind of letting Phil Jackson run it. And it obviously didn't end up working out. I don't know what happened with Phil Jackson, but he just lost his mind apparently. And then we went back, and then as soon as we had to get rid of Jackson, it was this patchwork thing again. It's you have Steve Mills and other dude who I always forget his name, co-GMing and co-dealing with the roster and never really have done anything good in their careers. And then we go with Leon Rose, and I'm okay, we get a young guy. He makes all these hires in the scouting department and analytics, and he's embracing analytics, which the Knicks have never done. They're the last team to not do it. And then he hires Tom Thibodeau. And I'm typical Knicks, man. Big name, who's past his prime. But we've been drafting well. We got screwed over by the NBA. We should have had John Morant or Zion. The lottery system is bogus. It's ridiculous. The 76ers tanked for 6 years in a row. The lottery system does not work. It does not stop teams from tanking. Get rid of it. And I might even say that because I'm a Knicks fan, man. If the Cavaliers would have won the lottery and got Zion, I would have been upset, but I would have understood. But when you get the Pelicans, who were only bad because they couldn't keep the superstar they had happy, and then you give them the most marketable superstar since LeBron James, it's a travesty to the league. I don't care how bad the Knicks are ran. At least Zion Williamson would be in New York.
Right.
And then Memphis, who's been a contender for a decade, has a couple bad years, and they just walk right into John Morant.